One of the most striking things about the world of the Iliad and the Odyssey is the warrior ethic that's found there. According to this view, one gains fame and status by defeating one's enemy. Thus, martial skills such as strength, speed, and facility with weapons have a high premium. Honor is a key value. When Achilles feels that he has been dishonored by Agamemnon, he refuses to fight. The goal is thus to win honor on the battlefield and to make sure that people know about it. Thus, bragging within limits is not necessarily regarded as a bad thing. Odysseus repeatedly praises himself for his cunning plans or foresight. When he introduces himself to Alcinous, the king of the Phaeacians, he says, quote, "I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, known before all men for the study of crafty designs, and my fame goes up to the heavens." After escaping from the Cyclops, he cannot restrain himself from taking the credit for outsmarting the monster. Believing that he is safe in his boat, which is sailing away from the island, Odysseus flaunts his achievement, taunting the Cyclops. Even though his taunts evoke an angry response that puts him and his men in great danger, he still cannot resist doing so again. It's especially important to him that the Cyclops knows his name so that his fame can be spread. Quote, "Cyclops, if any mortal man ever asks you who it was that inflicted upon your eye this shameful blinding, tell him that you were blinded by Odysseus, sacker of cities. Laertes is his father, and he makes his home in Ithaca." Even at great peril to himself, he taunts the Cyclops yet a third time. His behavior here is especially striking, given that he is otherwise known for his cunning and calculation. Indeed, he often shows great restraint and finds the rational solution, but yet here, no restraint whatsoever. This testifies to the importance of fame in the warrior ethic. From our modern perspective, what's even more odd is that, according to the warrior ethic, there's really nothing particularly wrong with killing and looting other people. As we just saw, Odysseus refers to himself as the sacker of cities. Again, before King Alcinous, he boasts, quote, "From Ilion the wind took me and drove me here, ashore at Isthmus by the Caicorians. I sacked their city and killed their people, and out of their city, taking their wives and many possessions, we shared them out, so none might go cheated of his proper portion." This is a particularly striking passage since Odysseus effectively portrays himself and his men as common pirates, murdering, raping, and looting people who've never done anything to them. He freely presents this image of himself to those present, and equally odd from the modern perspective, King Alcinous does not seem to find anything objectionable in it. At the end of the work, Odysseus is also particularly brutal in his slaughter of the suitors. Along the same lines, Odysseus describes the leader of the Greek campaign to Troy as follows, quote, "Agamemnon, whose fame now is the greatest thing under heaven, such a city that he sacked and destroyed so many people." Once again, this is a disturbing celebration of the needless loss of human life to violence. These examples bring out an element of ancient Greek life that is often forgotten. We tend to put Hellenic culture up on a pedestal as one of the high points of civilization, a high standard that later peoples strive to emulate. But a closer look reveals that a part of this culture was also very brutal and violent. We live in an illusion if we think that the Greeks were just sitting around writing poetry and doing philosophy. Instead, their culture included constant warfare, slavery, the oppression of women, infanticide, and many other elements that are entirely repellent to the modern mindset. The warrior ethic was widespread in the ancient world, and it is certainly in evidence in the Epic of Gilgamesh. One exception to this is the Hebrews. While they do record certain periods in their history where they celebrate their martial prowess, for example, in the Maccabean Revolt, these events do not tend to stand in the foreground as they do in the Homeric poems. Few people today can immediately recall the names of the leaders of this revolt, whereas everyone knows the names of Achilles and Odysseus. In Hebrew history, the focus in the end was on humility, as we saw in the case of Job. But humility is just the opposite of the warrior ethic. Indeed, it's antithetical to it. Thus, the heroes of the Old Testament, such as Abraham and Moses, are usually not thought of for their military prowess. but instead for their pious relation to the god. To the Greek mind, they would probably not be regarded as heroes at all.